What's up everyone, ODC, it's me here. In today's review we're going to take a look at the Star Wars Black Series figure number 46. This is episode 7, Luke Skywalker, aka Old Man Luke, right here. The long-awaited old version of Luke Skywalker, aka Mark Hamill. And I think they did a pretty good job overall. I think the paint on the face could be a little bit better. He does look... it doesn't really look like Mark Hamill too much. I know the sculpt is in there. It's just the paint applications are kind of either... I don't know, maybe the paint applications are a little bit too bright with the eyes, and then the other features aren't as dark as they need to be. I feel like a lot of the paint shading in the face would bring out more of the sculpt. But that's an ongoing theme with the Black Series. They did a really good job with the shading, the gray and the white shading going throughout the rest of the head sculpt, though. I think it looks good, pretty good for the most part. And I'm really liking the cloth robe. I think the cloth robe looks really nice, the hooded robe. The only gripe I really have with it is that this robe just, I mean, you kind of have to, you're going to have to wet this thing and then kind of mold it to where you want. Okay, just a little update here. This is prior to me doing the review and me doing some research, some much needed research for this cape. Now, there was a person that I think on Facebook that posted this of actually what the proper way to use the strings to get this to go. Now he had this actually. Now there's strings that are attached on the inside of this cape for Luke, and what he did was he actually had these to wrap around twice, and then you tie it in the front. What I did was I decided not to go with that design. I decided to go with just wrapping it around once and then tying it in the back, which kind of has this draped here. Now, what you can do is you could have this kind of you could end up cutting these off if you want to, these strings, if you don't like the way that looks. I'm leaving it just so I have some slack, so I can get it, because when you have these strings here, if you have fingers like mine, stupid, annoying, fat fingers, it's hard to tie this. It really is. It was kind of annoying to get this to go. If you have small hands, and you don't have to worry about that. But after you pretty much do that, what I did was I took the cloak before I put it on him, and I ran it under water, and then I kind of let it, I tied it when it was wet, and then it settled nicely. It's still doing a little bit more settling here, but this is a good look, I think, right here. Some people like to have this hood covering his face a little bit more, but I like it just the way it is, like so. So I think that looks really good, and it's just naturally lying in a natural direction, the way it's supposed to. And I think this looks really good. Now you could also, after you tie it, you could also have this draped down if you wanted to. But I prefer him with his hood up. I think it looks really good. And this didn't take me that long after I finally got it tied in the back. When I tried wrapping it around to how that person had it in the front, I couldn't tie it due to my stupid, annoying fingers. It's just kind of wrapped it around, and then what I did was, after I wrapped it here and I tied it, I pulled this portion of the cape up, the hood part up, because the hood is long, but it gives that nice flow of draping going throughout the back. So just to point that out, that's what I wanted to do really quick. And I hope this helped. If you guys have any questions, any more questions about the cape, I can answer them in the comments as best as possible. If you have any more questions about that, I guess I could do maybe an update video, but I think this is pretty much it. This covers it. as far as that goes. It will settle a little bit more. I might need to wet mine a little bit more just to get it down a little bit, but I think it looks good just like this. It's not that big of a deal, the gapping issue and whatever. It is a toy after all. So taking the robe off though, the attire looks good. He's pretty much in this fully plastic look for the figure. It looks good though, I'd say, for the most part. It is tough, I would say, to be dealing with a lot of the white plastic here, and obviously this rubbery material right here for the robe. I'm actually quite surprised I didn't go with cloth here, which actually in the, what was it, the upcoming box set with the display base, he actually does have cloth. So it's kind of strange that they decided to go with cloth for that, but not cloth here. But I guess it's just a nitpick of mine. That is an exclusive, so I guess you're paying a little bit more for the price. He does have a little hook here on his waist for a lightsaber, but he does not come with a lightsaber. They didn't show him with a lightsaber. I'm very curious as to what happened to his self-constructed lightsaber, his green lightsaber, over the years. So maybe they'll have some sort, in episode 8, they'll have some sort of reason as to why he does not have it. I feel like a customizer could really turn this face sculpt into what we want it to be. Like I said, it's not the worst face sculpt, or I shouldn't say face sculpt. It's not the worst paint applications on the face sculpt. It's just that it's almost there. It's almost there. It's the same thing with Rey, the episode 8 Rey. It's almost there. They almost knocked it out of the park. They're just missing a little bit. So, but that's my nitpick with the face. But the hair, like I said earlier, the hair looks really good on this guy. Like I said, the rest of the body is pretty much just a plastic, besides the robe right here. The color of the robe looks really good. It's kind of like that, I don't know, like grayish beige, if that's a thing. I don't know, maybe I'm partially colorblind, but it does look pretty good. I like the fact that they sewed some spines right here, so it does lay a little bit more natural. But yeah, I think he looks pretty good. Like I said, this is a rubbery type plastic material right here, and we do have some paint applications going throughout here and here and here, and it's pretty much just white and gray mixed together. So that's pretty cool. As far as Luke's articulation does go, his head can swivel full 360 rotation. His head can look up. It does look down about that far. Not the best looking up due to the hair sculpt. Can tilt a little bit side to side. Arms go up about that far. Down. Full 360 rotation. He's got a single bend at the elbow. Really good bend there. Swivel at the elbow as well. Swivel at the wrist. He does have the hinge joint, which goes back and forth. Same on this side as well, on the other hand. And this hand is really nicely sculpted, so you can definitely tell that is a mechanical hand. Pretty cool. He does have a diaphragm joint with a waist swivel and a crunch, which does more so crunch back than forward. That's fully forward. That's about neutral. So there's that. It does pivot side to side, and it can swivel. He can do the splits about that far. Let me just pick this piece up, and that's him maxed out. So it's pretty much the same with this down as opposed to as it is up. So that's a good thing. The legs can go forward like so, and they can kind of kick out a little bit right there. And then he's got an upper thigh swivel, a double jointed knee, He has an ankle hinge, which goes about that far, and then points the toe nicely. And then we have ankle pivot. So there you go. And he does have 2 peg holes at the bottom of his feet. So this is the last time that we saw Luke in a movie, what he looked like, as far as, you know, your robed look. And now this is the new one. And you're really going to have to kind of work with this robe, as this one just, you know, I wetted it a couple times and just formed right naturally. It lays naturally. He looks fantastic. I also do have a custom a Jedi vest underneath this, so that I picked up from eBay. So there's a couple custom things here, and the face sculpt is obviously custom as well, and I'll have you take a look at that. And I posted pictures of that Luke on my Facebook a while ago, so if you want to check that out, you can. But let's just bring in all the other Lukes, and we'll do a little comparison with everyone else. Okay, so first up we have Farm Boy Luke standing next to Master Jedi Luke, and this is a good size comparison right here. I would say obviously he's got the better head sculpt over him. He needs a lot more paint applications on this face, but this is a nice comparison from the beginning of Luke to his current state right here. So there's a little comparison for you. Next up we have Stormtrooper disguised Luke Skywalker. Nice consistent size here. It's around the same height. And here we have X-Wing pilot Luke, and this is from Wave 1, Phase 1, Year 1 Luke Skywalker. This is not the exclusive. He's a little bit taller than X-Wing pilot Luke, which I would actually think that he would be taller than the older version of himself, because the human body does tend to shrink, but we're also talking about the Star Wars universe, so who the heck knows. Okay, up next we have Hoth Luke, and this is one of my favorite Lukes. I really think they did a really good job with this sculpt, as they did with this Luke as well. They're around the same size, which is perfect, and yeah, looks good. Up next we have Bespin Luke. He's a little bit on the shorter side as well. I would say, and I'll just bring in X-Wing pilot Luke. X-Wing pilot Luke and Bespin Luke are around the same size, so they run a little bit on the shorter side, but these are 2 of the older Luke Skywalker figures, X-Wing pilot Luke and Bespin Luke. Okay, and here we have Jedi Knight, Return of the Jedi Luke Skywalker right here, standing next to Master Jedi Luke, so that's pretty cool as well. So there you go with that comparison. They're around the same size, which I think this is actually a perfect comparison right here as far as size and looks go. Okay, and here we have Luke Skywalker with a lightsaber in his hand, and it looks fine. It looks good. I'm actually really kind of rooting for his green saber to come back, but I was actually a big fan of him having that green lightsaber. Let's see if we can get him to two-hand this saber. Okay, so he can two-hand it in kind of an awkward position, but he can two-hand it nonetheless. He is a little bit hindered in the shoulder area due to the sculpting here on that side and that side up here. But he can two-hand a lightsaber. It's just kind of holding it like a baseball bat. The sculpt on the pants are pretty simple. It's just a gray plastic, including the wraps on his legs, which I actually thought it would have been nice if maybe they included, and I'm not sure if this is a design, part of the design, his wraps on his boots are gray as well, but I think it would have been nice to make these white, or maybe like an off-white or a dirty white somehow. Maybe put a little bit more shading into the boot, make them a little dirty, muck them up a little bit, you know. The brown on the belt looks pretty good and consistent throughout. No issues there. But yeah. So that is Old Man Luke. For the price point, a $20 price point, I paid $18 and change for him from Walmart on Force Friday. I would definitely give him 2 thumbs up. I would definitely recommend him. And, I mean, who's not going to want a Episode 7 Luke? I'm sure a lot of people do. If you're holding out for the Figuarts version of him, maybe eventually we'll get a Figuarts version of him down the road. I actually do have the Hot Toys version, so if we do ever get a Figuarts version, I'll definitely pick that up as well. But yeah, definitely 2 thumbs up here for the price point. I think it's worth it. I like where there is paint. They did a really good job. It's pretty fluent throughout and consistent throughout. The face could be a little bit better, but it's really not the end of the world. It's not one of the worst face sculpts that I've seen. This is one of the worst Luke face sculpts, or I shouldn't say sculpt, I keep saying that. I would say that this is probably one of the worst painted face sculpts that I've seen. It's very lazy. I think pretty much the only thing on Farm Boy Luke that's painted are his eyes, eyebrows, and hair. There's no shading of any kind. Even his skin tone is just kind of like a plastic color, which kind of really throws off the look for the face sculpt. And if anything with me, it's always the selling point of if you have a bad face paint on a face sculpt, or if you have a bad face sculpt in general, it doesn't really work. It really takes the figure down a peg, a couple pegs actually, for me. It's obviously not Slave Leia bad, but it's just lazy for Farm Boy Luke. So this is much better, far more improved. I think this skin tone that they used here, and it does look like this is actually painted. I don't think it's just a plastic color. This face sculpt is consistent with his hand as well, so that's nice. It's also consistent with his neck right there, so that's also something else to note. But that's pretty much it for me. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you for watching as always, and I'll see you guys on the flip side.